Namaskar. On behalf of the Delhi High Court Bar Association, I welcome you all this evening as we pay our special tribute to the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, on his 150th centenary celebrations. Today we present a theatrical version of a case which is one of the historical cases fought by Mahatma Gandhi himself when he was accused of sedition by the British government in India. There was a fear in the minds of the British that after the end of the First World War, violence may erupt amongst the people because the British had not fulfilled the promises they had pledged. On 10th of December 1917, Lord Chelmsford appointed a committee. Its purpose was to investigate and report on the nature and extent of the criminal conspiracies connected with the revolutionary movements in India, and also to examine and consider the difficulties that had arisen in dealing with such conspiracies, and also advise on any legislation required to deal effectively with them. Justice Rowlatt was appointed the president. The Rowlatt Committee was also called the Sedition Committee. During the war, there were many rules made by the government which helped in checking any activities or speech which were felt to be against the government and hence not to be permitted. The Rowlatt Report had many similarities with the Defence Act, which was presented in April 1916. The Rowlatt Committee recommended special legislation, both punitive and preventive in character, which helped in perpetuating the suspension of ordinary laws safeguarding the rights and liberties of the people, and left them to the tender mercies of the executive, or rather the police, even in times of peace, exactly as in the critical days of the war. Based on this recommendation, two separate bills were passed. The Rowlatt Bill was passed on 11th March 1922. Now, there was the Rowlatt Bill was passed on 18th of March 1922. Michael O'Dwyer, the Lieutenant Governor of Punjab, had already exasperated the whole province by the ruthless suppression of the rights of the people and the insults heaped upon the educated class. He interred hundreds of local men, gagged the vernacular press, banned the nationalist papers published outside of Punjab from entering. This tyrannical behavior ignited mass violence and hatred in Lahore, Gujranwala, Kasur, and culminated in the massacre at the Jallianwala Bagh, where more than 1,000 men, women, and children were killed. Michael O'Dwyer immediately imposed curfew and ordered that anyone seen outside will be shot at sight. Provoked by these happenings, Gandhi wrote several articles in Young India. In these articles, he propagated that
when a person claims to be non-violent, he is expected not to be angry with the one who has injured him. He will not wish him harm. He will wish him well. He will not swear at him. He will not cause him any physical hurt. He will put up with all the injury to which he is subjected by the wrongdoers. Thus, nonviolence is complete innocence. Complete nonviolence is complete absence of ill will against all that lives, who embraces even subhuman life, not excluding beasts.
as soon as the government introduced the bills, Gandhi organized a Satyagraha campaign. Michael O'Dwyer, the Lieutenant Governor of Punjab, had already exasperated the whole province by the ruthless suppression of the rights of the people and the insults heaped upon the educated class. He entered hundreds of local men, gagged the vernacular press, and banned the nationalist papers published outside of Punjab from entering. This tyrannical behavior ignited mass violence and hatred in Lahore, Gujranwala, Kasur, and culminated in the massacre at the Jallianwala Bagh, where more than 1,000 men, women, and children were killed. Michael O'Dwyer immediately imposed curfew and ordered that anyone seen outside will be shot at sight. Provoked by these happenings, Gandhi wrote several articles. In these articles, he propagated that
Civil disobedience, therefore, becomes a sacred duty when the state has become lawless, or which is the same thing, corrupt. And a citizen that barters with such a state shares its corrupt lawlessness. The safest and the quickest way to defend these rights is to ignore the restriction. We must speak under the shower of bullets. We must band together in the face of bullets. No cost is too great for purchasing these fundamental rights. Liberty of speech means that it is unassailed even when speech hurts. Liberty of the press can be said to be truly respected only when the press can comment, even in the severest terms, upon and even misrepresent matters, protection against misrepresentation or violence being secured not by an administrative gagging order, not by closing down the press, but by punishing the real offender, leaving the press itself unrestricted. Freedom of association is truly respected when assemblies of people can discuss even revolutionary projects. No empire intoxicated with the red wine of power and plunder of weaker races has yet lived long in this world. And this British Empire, which is based on organized exploitation of physically weaker races of the earth, and upon a continuous exhibition of brute force, cannot live till there is a just God ruling the universe.
the political activities of Gandhi and his three articles were considered seditious. On 11th March 1922, Gandhi and Shankar Lal Banka, the publisher, were produced before L.N. Brown, the additional district magistrate. He committed the case under section 124A of the IPC to the Court of Session, Ahmedabad. Both Gandhi and Banka were removed to Sabarmati jail, where they were detained till the 18th of March. Elaborate military arrangements were made to safeguard Ahmedabad in case of any disturbances. One could see the military marching through the main roads of Ahmedabad, occupying government buildings, banks, and other places of importance. Now, it's worth noting that this case did not take place in a courtroom. The collector's office in Ahmedabad was improvised into a trial room. The trial began on the 18th of March 1922 at 12 noon. अदालत है आराम से आइए अच्छा जैसे हमें पता ही नहीं बाकी पे जो कैसे याद होना चाहिए क्या मतलब
So you've all gathered here to support me in case I break down. This is more a family gathering, not a court of law.
Mr. Advocate General, I had a query about the charge. The committing magistrate, while framing the charge, mentions three offences, but accuses the offender with only one. I, my understanding of your case is that there were three distinct offences of a similar nature and all done within 1 year, so they could be tried together. If that is so, then it should be read thus.
Yes, Your Honor, that is so.
Charges under Section 124A IPC against Mr. Gandhi and Mr. Shankarlal Banker, and also the three articles are as follows: tampering with loyalty, the puzzle and its solution, and shaking the mains. These articles were published in the Young India on 29 September 1921, 15 December 1921, and 23 February 1922, respectively. Section 124A of the Indian Penal Code runs thus: whoever, by words either spoken or written, or by signs, or by visible representation, or otherwise brings or attempts to bring into hatred, or contempt, or excites or attempts to excite disaffection towards His Majesty or the government established by law in British India, shall be punished with transportation for life, or any shorter term to which fine may be added, or with imprisonment which may extend to 3 years, to which fine may be added, or with fine. Explanation 1. The expression disaffection includes disloyalty and all feelings of enmity. Explanation 2. Comments expressing disaffection of the measures of the government with a view to obtain their alteration by lawful means, without exciting or attempting to excite hatred, contempt, or disaffection, do not constitute an offense under this section. Explanation 3. Comments expressing disapprobation of the administrative or other action of the government without exciting or attempting to excite hatred, contempt, or disaffection do not constitute an offense under this section.
The law states that the charges must be read out and explained. However, in this case, I don't think much explanation is necessary. The words hatred and contempt are self-explanatory. The word disaffection is defined in the section itself and has recently been interpreted in a case in the Bombay High Court, which states an attempt to excite disaffection towards government is equivalent to an attempt to excite hatred of government, as established by law, to excite political discontent and alienate the people from their allegiance. The charges having been read out and explained as detailed as possible, I would now call upon the accused to plead to the charges.
I plead guilty on all counts.
I plead guilty, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I seek permission to say a word with regard to the plea of the accused. Under Section 271 of the CRPC, it is open to you to convict the accused on their plea or proceed with the trial. But the word is may and not must. Therefore, I request you to proceed with the trial because in the first instance, the charges are of a most serious character. And in the second place, it is desirable in the interest of the public that the matter may be fully and publicly investigated. Now, looking at it from a narrower point of view, with regard to the sentence that Your Honor may be pleased to impose on each of the accused, I say that it is not possible for you to deal with the matter adequately unless and until you have all the facts before you. This was the view taken by the High Court of Bombay in 19 Bombay IR 365.
That is a murder case.
Yes, Your Honor, it is a murder case, an extreme case. But the principle applied there applies here as well. There is another case that is reported in 23 Madras 151. But that is on a point of law as to whether or not the trial judge has the power to proceed. Therefore, As an officer of the court, it is my solemn duty to bring certain facts and evidence before you, which will not be there before you on mere charges. And these are the matters that I request you to consider, and please proceed with the trial.
All I can say is that I disagree with you. I have a total discretion to convict the accused based on their plea. In which case, there is no advantage whatsoever playing the evidence recorded before the committing magistrate. About your point about investigating the charges in full, the evidence that has already been recorded shows that Mr. Gandhi is responsible for having written all the 3 articles. And in the face of his plea, it's futile to record the evidence again. Finally, about the sentence. I've given it deep thought ever since I've known that I have to handle the case. In case of being found guilty. And I am very clear about it, yet I would like to hear what Mr. Gandhi or you have to say. But I don't think playing the evidence again is going to make a whit's difference to the sentence. Therefore, I propose to accept the plea of the accused. All that is left is to accept the sentence. But of course, I'd like to hear what the Advocate General has to say about it.
Your Honor, am I at least entitled to refer to the evidence that was presented before the committing magistrate?
You are entitled to refer to the evidence in the charge and the plea of the accused only.
But, Your Honor, I'd like to have the evidence before the court so that the whole matter may be properly considered. If you allow me to present the evidence here or refer to when the trial happened in front of the committing magistrate, I could show various things which are material to the question of sentence.
May I request the Advocate General to approach the bench? What other facts do you wish to refer to?
Your Honor, what I desire to show is this, that it is apparent from the issues of Young India which were presented before the committing magistrate that the articles which form the subject of the charges form merely a part of a campaign to spread disaffection openly, to systematically render government impossible, and to serve to overthrow. The earliest article that was presented in front of the committing magistrate was from 25th of May, 1921, in which the accused is clearly stated that he would plead guilty should he be charged, as it is the duty of a non-cooperator to plead guilty to charges of sedition.
I understand your point, but it seems very clear to me. Once the court has accepted the plea, the materials on which the sentence will be pronounced are the charge and the accused plea only.
Your Honor, the question of sentence is up to you and the court. But as far as the accused are concerned, there is no dispute to those articles, none whatsoever.
Has this been brought up and decided on in any court of law?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I don't think it has been. But what I wish to say is that the court must go on more general matters. No, I'm not asking the court to go on beyond the magistrate's record. Your Honor, you prevent me from presenting evidence here. I bow to that ruling. But I must at least be allowed to refer to what happened when the trial proceeded, in order to ascertain what the facts are.
You may refer to the charge to show Mr. Gandhi's general situation, but kindly do not relate to any other documents that were not involved in the actual charge.
Thank you, Your Honor. All that I wish to present is the fact that the campaign itself undoubtedly started at a much earlier date. And that is the first matter which I bring to your attention. The second matter to which I bring your attention is that the first accused is a man of high education and qualification. And it is evident from his writing that he is a recognized leader. The result is that the harm that can be caused is considerable. Lastly, the court must also look at and consider to what harm a campaign of the type articulated in these articles can lead to. We have numerous examples before us in the last few months. I refer to the occurrences in Bombay, Madras, and Chauri Chaura on murders, rioting, and destruction of property, leaving numerous people in misery and misfortune. It is true that in the course of these articles, non-violence is insisted upon as an item of the wild campaign, an item of the creed. But of what use is to insist on non-violence when he continuously preaches disaffection towards the government, holding it up as treacherous, and seeks deliberately and incites others to overthrow it? Your Honor, the answer to that, according to me, lies in the occurrences of Bombay, Madras, and Chauri Chaura. These are the circumstances that I request you to consider while sentencing the first accused. And I request you to also consider why should the sentence not be one of severity. With regard to the second accused, his guilt admittedly is of a lesser degree. Whilst he printed and so betted the publication of the articles, he did not write them. Nevertheless, it's a serious offense, and my prayer to the court is that a substantial fine may be imposed in addition to any terms of imprisonment as the court may think proper. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Gandhi, would you like to make a statement to the court on the sentence?
I would like, Your Honor, with the permission of the court, to read a written statement. And I would like to endorse all the remarks made by the learned Advocate General in connection with my humble self. He has been very fair to me in all the statements he has made thus far, because it is very true. And I have no desire to conceal from this court the fact that to preach disaffection towards the existing system of government has become a passion with me. And the learned Advocate General is also very much in the right when he says that my preaching of disaffection commenced not with my connection with young India. And in the statement I'm about to make, it will be my painful duty to admit to this court that in fact it began much earlier than the period mentioned by the Advocate General. It is indeed a very painful duty with me, and I must discharge this duty knowing the responsibilities that rested upon me. And I would like to endorse all the blame that the Advocate General has thrown on my shoulders in connection with the occurrences of Bombay, Madras, and Chauri Chaura. Non-violence is the first article of my faith. It is also the last article of my faith. But I had a choice to make. I had either to submit to a system which I believe has done irreparable harm to my country, or incur the risk of the mad fury of my people when they understand the truth from my lips. I know sometimes my people have gone mad. I'm deeply sorry for it. I am here, therefore, not to submit to a light penalty, but to the highest penalty. I do not ask for your mercy. I do not ask for any extenuating act of clemency. By the time I'm done with my statement, I hope you will have a glimpse of what rages within my breast to run the maddest risks that any sane man can run. I owe it, perhaps, to the Indian public and to the public in England to placate that which this prosecution has mainly taken up, that I should explain why, from a staunch loyalist and cooperator, I have become an uncompromising disaffectionist non-cooperator. I should say why I plead guilty to the charges of promoting disaffection towards the government established by law in India.
My public life began in 1893 in South Africa. In troubled weather, my first contact with British authority in that country was not of a happy character. And as an Indian, I had no rights. More correctly, I discovered that I had no rights as a man because I was an Indian. But I was not baffled. I thought that this treatment of Indians was an excrescence upon a system that was intrinsically and mainly good. I gave the government my voluntary and hearty cooperation, criticizing it freely where I felt it was faulty, but never wishing it destruction. Consequently, when the existence of the empire was threatened in 1899 by the Boer Challenge, I offered my services to it, raised a voluntary ambulance corps, and served at several actions that took place for the relief of Lady Smith. Similarly, in 1906, at the time of the Zulu revolt, raised a stretcher bearer party and served till the end of the rebellion. On both these occasions, I received medals and was even mentioned in dispatches. For my work in South Africa, I was given by Lord Harding a Kaisar-e-Hind gold medal. When the war broke out in 1914 between England and Germany, I raised a volunteer ambulance corps in London consisting of the then resident Indians, chiefly students. Its work was acknowledged by the authorities to be valuable. Lastly, in India, when a special appeal was made at the War Conference in Delhi in 1918 by Lord Chelmsford for recruits, I struggled at the cost of my health to raise a corps in Kheda, and the response was being made when the hostilities ceased and orders were received that no more recruits were required. In all these efforts at service, I was actuated by the belief that it was possible by such services to gain a status of full equality in the empire for my countrymen. The first shock came in the shape of the Rowlatt Act, a law designed to rob the people of all real freedom. I felt called upon to lead an intensive agitation against it. And then followed the Punjab horrors, beginning with the massacre of Jallianwala Bagh and culminating in crawling orders, public floggings, and other indescribable humiliations. I discovered, too, that the plighted word of the Prime Minister to the Mussalmans of India regarding the integrity of Turkey and the holy place of Islam was not likely to be fulfilled. But in spite of the foreboding and grave warnings of friends at the Amritsar Congress in 1919, I fought for cooperation and working of the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, hoping that the Prime Minister would redeem his promise to the Indian Mussalmans, that the Punjab wound would be healed, that the reforms, inadequate and unsatisfactory though they were, marked a new era of hope in the life of India.
But all that hope was shattered. The Khilafat promise was not to be redeemed. The Punjab crime was whitewashed. And most culprits went on not only unpunished, but continued to remain in service, and some continued to get their pensions from the Indian revenue, and in some cases were even rewarded. I saw too that not only did the reforms not mark a change of heart, but that they were only a method of further draining India of her wealth and prolonging her servitude. I came reluctantly to the conclusion that the British connection had made India more helpless than she ever had been, politically and economically. A disarmed India had no power of resistance against any aggressor, even if she wanted to engage in an armed conflict with him. So much is this the case that some of our best men consider that India must take generations before it can acquire dominion status. She has become so poor that she can hardly resist famines. But before the British advent, India spun and wove in her millions of cottages just the supplement she needed to add to her meager agricultural resources. This cottage industry, Your Honor, so vital for India's existence, has been ruined by incredibly inhuman processes as documented by English witnesses. Little do the town dwellers know how The semi-starved masses of India are sinking into lifelessness. Little do they know that their miserable comfort represents the brokerage they earn for the work they do for the foreign exploiter, that the brokerage and profits are sucked from the masses. Little do they realize that the government established by law in British India, Your Honor, is carried for this expressive purpose of exploiting the masses. No sophistry, no jugglery of figures can conceal the evidence that skeletons in many villages will present to the naked eye. I have no doubt that England and the town dwellers of India will have to answer for this crime against humanity, which is unequaled in history. The law in this country has been prostituted to serve the foreign exploiter. My experience of political cases in India leads one to the conclusion that in 9 out of every 10, the condemned men are totally innocent. Their crime consisted of their love for their country. Section 124A, under which I'm happily charged, is perhaps the prince among the political sections of the Indian Penal Code designed to suppress the liberty of the citizen. Affection cannot be manufactured, let alone regulated by law. If one has no affection for a person or thing, one ought to be free to give the fullest expression to his disaffection, so long as one does not contemplate, incite, or promote violence. But the section under which Mr. Banker and I are charged, mere promotion of disaffection is a crime. I have studied some of the cases tried under it, and I know some of our loved patriots have been tried and convicted under this section. I consider it, therefore, a privilege to be charged under Section 124A. In my humble opinion, Your Honor, non-cooperation with evil ought to be as much a duty as is cooperation with good. Non-violence implies voluntary submission to the penalty for non-cooperation with evil. I am therefore to submit and invite cheerfully to the severest penalty that could be inflicted upon me for what in law is a deliberate crime and what to me appears to be the highest duty of a citizen. The only course then open to you, the judge, is to resign your post, dissociate yourself with evil. If you feel that the law you have been called upon to administer is evil, and that in reality I'm innocent, or inflict on me the severest penalty if you believe that the law and the system you're here to assist and administer is good for the people of this country, and that in effect my activity is injurious to the public weal.
Mr. Banker, would you like to make a statement to the court about the sentence?
Your Honor, I just want to say that yes, I had the privilege of printing these articles, and I plead guilty to the charges. I have got nothing to say as regards the sentence. Thank you.
Mr. Gandhi, you have made my task simple by your pleading guilty to the charge. All that is left is to determine the just sentence, a task difficult enough for any judge in this country. The law has no respect for persons. Nevertheless, we cannot ignore that you are in a category by yourself, unlike anyone I have ever tried or am likely to try. We cannot ignore the fact that millions of your countrymen look upon you as a great patriot and a leader. Even your political opponents look upon you as a person of high ideals, of noble and spiritual life. But I have to judge you under the law. And the common people must understand that you have committed a grave offense against the state. I have great reverence for your writings. I know that at many points in time you have spoken out against non-violence. And I'm willing to believe that at many a time you have been able to stop the violence too. But I find it amazing that you did not think that your writings would result in violence and anarchy. I must find a balance between what is correct under the law and what the public expects. And I propose in passing sentences to follow the precedent of a case that has been decided here some 12 years ago. I mean the case against Mr. Bal Gangadhar Tilak under the same section. The sentence passed upon him as it finally stood was a sentence of simple imprisonment of 6 years. I'm certain you will not consider it unreasonable, I think, that you are bracketed with Mr. Tilak. And that is the sentence. 2 years simple imprisonment on each count of the charge, that is 6 years in all, which I feel it my duty to pass upon you. However, in the unfolding of history, if the government finds means to reduce the sentence and release you from prison, I will be the happiest. Mr. Banker, I assume you have been to a large extent under the influence of your chief. The sentence I propose to pass upon you is simple imprisonment for 6 months on each of the first 2 counts.
May I say a word? Undoubtedly. Since you've done me the honor of recalling the trial of the late Lokmanya Tilak, I just wanted to say that it is the proudest privilege to be associated with his name. And so far as the sentence is concerned, it is as light as any judge could have inflicted on me. And as far as the whole proceedings are concerned, I could not have expected better courtesy.
महात्मा गांधी की जय, महात्मा गांधी की जय, महात्मा गांधी की जय।
No haltas, no noisy demonstrations, no processions. I would prefer the observance of perfect peace on my arrest as a mark of high honor paid to me by my countrymen. I would like, however, to see the constructive work of the Congress going on with clockwork regularity and with the speed of the Punjab Express. I would love to see those that had hitherto held themselves back, discarding all their foreign cloth and making a bonfire of it. Let them fulfill the whole of the constructive program framed at Bardoli. And they will not only release me and the other prisoners, they will also inaugurate Swaraj and secure redress of the Khilafat and Punjab wrongs. Let them remember the 4 pillars of Swaraj: non-violence, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Parsi, Christian, Jew unity, complete removal of untouchability, and manufacture of hand-woven and spun khadar, completely displacing foreign cloth.
As I listen to the words that flow with prophetic fervor from the lips of my beloved master, my thoughts sped across centuries to a different age and a different land, when a similar drama was enacted and another divine and gentle teacher was crucified for spreading kindred gospel with kindred courage. I realized anew that the lowly Jesus of Nazareth furnishes the only true parallel in history to the sweet, invincible apostle of Indian liberty who loved humanity with surpassing compassion. And to use his own beautiful phrase, approach the poor with the mind of the poor. They may take him to the ends of the earth, but his destination remains unchanged in the hearts of his people, who are both the heirs and the stewards to his matchless deeds.
The darkness deepens, Lord, with me abide. When other helpers fail and comforts flee, help of the helpless, oh, abide with me. Hold thou thy cross before my closing eyes. Shine through the gloom and point me to the skies. Heaven's morning breaks and earth's vain shadows flee. In life, in death, oh Lord, abide with me. In life, in death, oh Lord,